Welcome back everybody, Bronson with the Epoxy Resin Store. Today I'm going to show you how to epoxy a bathroom sink. All right, today I'm going to show you how to take this old, ugly sink that we've got in our shop. We're going to clean it up and we're going to make it look beautiful and brand new again. You see I put some green tape up around it and I'm prepping the surface now. I've just got some boogers and some old epoxy on here. I've got a chisel here, I'm scraping it off. So I wiped it down really good and we're gonna clean this. So the purpose, what you're trying to do right here is you want to clean the surface as clean as you possibly get. You see I've got some acetone here. Acetone's a great cleaner. It cleans really well, takes the materials off, and it also flashes, meaning it'll evaporate off very quickly so I can move on to my next step. If you look down into the bowl there, it's really gross. This shop has been here for a very long time. Much longer than we've even been here, and it's just taken a lot of abuse. There's a lot of corrosion, there's some pitting, there's some stuff in there. A lot of these colors just aren't gonna come out, but I'm gonna get this surface as clean as I possibly can so that we have some really good adhesion. Also, I'd like to note that I've got all the plumbing off, and underneath I've got a bucket, a 1 gallon bucket, designed to catch any of the chemicals I'm using to clean, and also the epoxy and that stuff when we get to that portion of the pour, so it's not just falling all over. It's important to get that out. So here's what we use on smooth surface. It's called Eco Prime Grip. I just get this at Lowe's. There's a competing product that does a very similar thing called MBP that you can get from Home Depot. It's an acrylic binder with a silica base mixed up in it, so it sticks really, really strong to smooth surfaces, and then it provides it's rough so that I'm able to mechanically bond to it. So here I am, I'm just gonna spread it with a chip brush here. One of the things you want to watch out for, this doesn't self-level by itself, so you're gonna see me, I'm gonna go over it several times. I'm not really worried about the stroke marks, I just don't want any buildup or piling on it, or you'll have to sand that down because it won't level on itself, and I don't want this to be lumpy. I want a nice smooth finish. So I'm just gonna make sure there's a nice coating on all this. I like to start with the bowl, then I'll work with the back and edges, then I'll do the top last. And then I'll really take my time. So as you see, I'm going around here and I really want to make sure that, one, I've got enough material down that we have something to work with, and two, that I don't have a not smooth surface. I'm gonna smooth it as best as I can with this chip brush, as you can see now. All right, now you can see I'm hitting the back. I like to start at the top because it's gonna drip down, so I don't want to really hassle without working my way up. So I start from the top down and just work my way down. All right, now that I've got my back inside my bowl and the back of my backsplash down, I'm gonna just spread this around the surface, make sure we've got a nice even coating. All right, I've got the top done. I'll make sure I get a nice coating on my front surface. These front surfaces, where they're vertical, they're the hardest. We've got gravity fighting with us, so when we put our coating on, when we put our top coats on, all the stuff, this is where we have the biggest issue to address and make sure that we get done right. Now that I've got it covered, I'm just gonna do a nice back and forth stroke so that we have an even, smooth application of the material. So when we move to the next step, I don't have a bunch of different textures underneath that I'm trying to work with. All right, now we're gonna use this product right here. It's called Rust-Oleum Stone Effect. You get these at your big box store. You can order it online on Amazon. I'll drop a link. But yeah, it's gonna leave a texture. When you first spray it on, the best way I can describe it is like the old school shower or shaving cream that's kind of like foamy. It's a lot like that, so you're not gonna wanna touch it once it's on. You're just gonna coat this really well, and it's gonna put a texture there, and it really covers up everything below it. And then you're just gonna leave it alone. You're gonna let it dry. And what I like to do is I like to make sure I get all my vertical surfaces first. I'm hitting my edges and my backsplash first. Then I'm gonna come around and hit the fronts. I want a nice even application. As you can see, I'm pretty sloppy with this. I'm not worried about it hitting the wall or the cabinet underneath. We're gonna shoot a different video and show you some fun stuff we can do with cabinets. So I'm not really that worried about it, but it just wipes right off, being like that shaving cream like material before it dries. So now I'm gonna hit the edge of this bowl right here, and you're gonna start to see it take shape. As you can see, it's already looking really, really good, particularly compared to what it looked like starting out. All right, as you can see, now I'm just taking a wet cloth here. Crocodile wipes, my favorite, as you probably heard before. And I'm just gonna wipe this down before it dries, and it makes life real easy. Now, if you let it dry, more of a problem. You're gonna have to scrape it off. It's just an issue. But if you just hit it while it's wet, it doesn't dry super fast. Just comes off real easy. So I'm going to wipe this down, and then we're gonna let this dry overnight, and we'll take our next step tomorrow. And all right, there you go. There's our overview. It's wet right now, we're gonna let this dry out. Look how good that looks already. Wait till we throw the epoxy on, you're gonna love this. All right, here we are next day. You can see that it's dried up. I've got my chip brush. I've thrown a little of my famous Vegas sizzle in there. And now we're gonna add some of our favorite epoxy, super gloss. We're gonna mix this up. I'm gonna mix up 20 ounces, which is more than enough for this. I wanna point out this project is super affordable when it comes to being able to redo your bathroom sink. We are into this thing maybe $20 tops, with the bulk of that being the texture spray. The Eco Prime grip we had laying around here, but if you don't have it already, it's 50 bucks a gallon, and a gallon goes a very long way, so you'll be able to use it for tons of projects. Like I said, we use barely any of it on this. The cost of the texture stuff was about 15 bucks, and then we're using the smallest amount of resin, maybe $4 or $5 worth of resin, and this thing will be completely finished off. So you can go from a ugly, gross sink to a brand new, gorgeous sink for well under $30. To mix up our resin, we're gonna make sure we really thoroughly mix our resin up. Remember, when you're mixing resin up, it's important that you scrape your sides and bottoms. As you can see, I'm doing there gently with my drill, and really take the time to incorporate it. A lot of the failures that I see with people with resin is there just as a lack of mixing well. They don't thoroughly mix their resin. So just take the time and mix your resin. We have a long work time with this product, 45 plus minutes, an hour and a half. I've even worked with it an hour and a half later for different effects. So you've got plenty of time. So make sure you've got it mixed up there and spread that out. All right, if you want a bro tip, because I'm your bro Bronson, I buy these chip brushes. It's like $11 for 36 of them, and I go through them like crazy. I get mine at Harbor Freight. It's a great spot. If I go and try and buy these at the big box stores, they like to try to sell them for $2-3 bucks. It would have cost 72 bucks compared to 11 for these. So I got you there. If you got a Harbor Freight in town, check it out. It's gonna save you a ton of money. That's where I get these chip brushes from. Make sure that when you get them, you give them some nice tugs, and make sure you get the bristles out so they don't come out in your projects. And then away you go. As you can see here, I'm starting with the back, working from the top down. As you can see, it adds a real deep, rich color to it when we put the resin on it. I'm gonna hit these edges and sides and work that in really, really well. All right, so once again, I'm gonna make sure I hit my vertical surfaces first. Really, as you can see, I'm not sparing any epoxy on there. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I wrapped it in plastic, so the epoxy doesn't drip on it. I'm not worried about that. I'm gonna hit my vertical surfaces, make sure they're nice and wet. Then I'm gonna hit the tops and then work my way down the bowl of the sink. I'm gonna get that upper lip of the sink, and I'm gonna get that going so we get that drip sort of moving down, so I can work the inside of that. Your vertical surfaces, your bowls, that kind of stuff, you've got gravity working with you, so it's gonna be the thinnest. Don't go crazy when you're torching it. So once we get to the torching portion, don't go crazy, because it's gonna pull all your material off, and we want it to stick as much of it as we can. I'm actually gonna do 2 coats of clear coat on this, but it's no big deal. You can get away with 1. I just have some extra, use so little, and I want a really, really smooth look to this, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, we're just finishing up the edge here. For those of you who've never seen epoxy applied with a brush, I'm just being really, really thick. I'm not skimping on it. I'm not trying to paint. I'm trying to really just throw a bunch of material on and spread it around. It's a good way to do it for a little project like this. Epoxy does self-level, so it's easy to work with that way. I don't have to worry about uneven application. Something this small, it's hard for me to get my trowels in and move around, and so it's really nice. I don't have to worry about it scratching the bottom of the material I'm working with, and that's going to provide a strong, durable coating. It's going to be like a glass-like finish, and it's just a really, really nice finish. All right, there you go. Look at that thing. Look, we've got it all sitting there. So as usual, there's some bubbles in there. I let this sit about 10 minutes, and now I'm bringing the torch in. We're just giving it a quick pass, 1 pass for glass. It's gonna get all those bubbles out. It's gonna become very glass-like. And then, like I said, when you're in the bowl and that kind of stuff, don't go crazy torching your vertical surfaces. Like when you heat your epoxy or your resin, it moves very quickly. And we're trying to keep as much resin as, but we also want the bubbles out in a smooth glass. So you gotta balance the two. Like I said, we're gonna come back in, we'll do a second coat on this the same way we did the first, and you're gonna have just a beautiful result. All right, here's a little trick for you as well. I don't want to go in here sanding this, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this tongue depressor, and gonna scrape my edges. I'm gonna wait 10 to 15 minutes in between, and I'm gonna do this 2 to 3 times, and that's gonna eliminate the bulk of my drips as this hardens up, the resin, and so I don't have to come back later with an angle grinder or anything else to try and cut those drips off and get you nice and clean. There you go. Look at that. Now we just pull the tape. I like to pull my tape while your resin's wet. Just makes life easier. You're gonna see we had a little struggle with this, but that was because I'm wearing gloves and tape at the same time. If you let your resin harden with the tape, sometimes you gotta bring a razor blade in and cut it. It just becomes a little bit more difficult. So I always like to pull it while my resin's wet. All right, look at this. Look at this clean line that's left by this tape. Hold on, wait for it. Wait for it, hold the line. Oh, look at that. So satisfying. Now if I can get my big O fingers in here with this, these gloves on. So you're gonna notice there's kind of a little gap in that back corner. I'm not gonna sweat it. I'm gonna fill that with some caulk later. So I'm really just worried about that edge right there that we're pulling. Look at that, just razor clean. That's gorgeous. That's what we're looking for, just like that. Boom. All right, and there's our finish effect. Now we'll just let this dry up, and it's gonna look gorgeous in the morning. All right, thank you for watching our video on how to epoxy a bathroom sink. If you like this video, remember, we don't ask for money, but we do ask for 3 things. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so when we have another video, you're the first to find out.